There's a certain stigma towards vegan activism in society. We fear being shamed for our lifestyles or shown some obscene thing that gives us nightmares. But as effective as these shock value tactics can be, it doesn't appeal to everyone. I'm planning to meet up with a local vegan group that is exploring an alternative method for getting through to the public in what they think is a more appealing way, something that they call Chalktivism. I wanted to know a bit more about this, and upon arriving, I was so surprised to see how something so basic and almost primitive could be so thought-provoking, but I still wasn't sure just how necessary or relevant it was compared to the other forms of activism they do. I decided to go right to the top and spoke to the leader of the group and events organiser Jessie to get her take on Chalktivism.
So how long have you been doing this?
So we started Southampton Vegan Action about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
The chalking, I believe, has been 6 months-ish.
Yeah.
It happened quite early on. It sort of needed to happen. A lot of people wanted to get involved in activism,
Yeah.
but they didn't want to do some of our cubes of truth or something because they saw it as too sort of out there in your face. But
Can you explain cubes of truth?
so cubes of truth is we stand in a cube and we all wear masks to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
And we show footage of standard farming practice, which to a lot of people is really horrific, and they think, oh, this is just factory farming, but it's actually just standard. It's usually RSPCA approved, all from the UK. Yeah, and so we show that and we explain what happens, and we get people to make the correlation between the animals they're sort of blindly buying and eating and the person that had to be killed to produce that product that they know. So in contrast, chalking is a lot less what people would describe as extremists, I guess, but for me, I don't see it that way.
Yeah.
It's a lot more approachable, so it's good to get people into activism, and we've had a lot of people that started off chalking that now do those events because they're part of our family and they're part of...
Create a little community.
Literally, yeah, and as soon as they're comfortable, they realise that those things are just as important, and yeah, they're well up for getting involved, which is awesome.
So it's almost like a gateway
Yeah.
into
Literally.
the world of activism. It's like a non-sort of like intrusive kind of thing to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, definitely, and it's seen as more of a social thing, which is nice. A lot of people, they don't know a lot of other vegans, and you sort of ostracise yourself from other people.
Yeah, you become that one
Yeah.
friend in the group that's vegan.
Yeah, and that becomes your entire persona, doesn't it? And
Whereas here, you just people.
yeah, exactly, and this is the world that we want, so it's very refreshing just speaking to someone and knowing that you share immediately one common thing and your morals are the same, and that's very important, and for that reason we all just become friends instantly, which is really great.
Obviously, you said that a lot of people sort of have joined this now and then gone into the other forms of activism. Do you think that it's definitely made the other forms of activism stronger and more effective because of this?
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes it more approachable, like we said. A lot of times people get to know us through this, and because of that, then they want to come to the other events, and it does make it stronger. Something like that is a really tough day. It's not nice to have to stand there for me and watch that. And so it's very important that when I have to watch it and I have to explain it to other people, that I then have a really strong group of people behind me that I can then maybe go and do this with afterwards, or maybe just grab a coffee.
Yeah.
And that is important for me as well. And it definitely makes the team stronger. We all know that we play a part and we're all important. So yeah, it makes a really nice sort of community.
After only being there a short while, I could already feel this community vibe she was talking about. I wanted to talk to some of the others involved to hear their thoughts on the whole thing.
Is this your first time doing this, or how many times have you done this
No,
before?
I've done this, well, here in Southampton. This is only maybe like my 6th time doing this.
Oh,
But I've done Chalktivism a lot in Cambridge before this and Bristol.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, I just met these people through this, and yeah, 5th or 6th time doing it, really like doing it, because it's like a nice subtle form of activism.
Yeah.
And it's like non-confrontational.
That's what drawn me to it as well, and sort of like making this.
And it can, you can go wild with your artistic, expression as well, which is nice.
So it's fun. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it also lasts once you're gone, so it's not just like other types of activism where you're only talking to people when they're right in front of you.
Yeah.
This, you write it, and as long as it doesn't rain, it's going to stay here for a few days
Yeah.
afterwards, and people will just see it as they wander up and down. So it's like non-confrontational, and it lasts after
Exactly,
you're not
you
there.
see it every day, you walk to work and everything, it's like your own form of free
And
publicity and advertisements.
yeah, and it's appropriate for everyone as well. Like kids can read it. It's obviously not graphic like some of the other forms of activism that we do. We have to show graphic footage and be quite in detail when we talk about like what happens in slaughterhouses and what happens to animals. But with this, it's like quite open to everybody. So children and adults alike, which is good. Yeah.
And is there sort of boundaries that you kind of try not to cross with things like this? Obviously, there's a park that's just behind us now,
Yeah.
and kids are probably going to walk past and see it. I mean, do kind of censor things a little bit, or?
Kids get it. And kids, you don't need violent messages. You don't need to overcome their ego, right? So with adults, we don't like to admit that we're wrong. So for me, going vegan, that's the only reason I didn't do it sooner. I didn't want to admit that these people who I'd been saying were chatting rubbish for so long, I didn't want to admit they had a point. Whereas kids don't have that. They just know what's right and wrong. Like, one of the first things we're taught as kids is don't do anything to other people you wouldn't do to yourself, right? But eating meat and dairy and consuming as part of this industry, that directly goes against it. So we have to be mindful. I say no bad language, nothing sort of obscene. A lot of people sort of liken what happens to these animals to tragedies from the past, like the war and the Holocaust and slavery, etc. I think in terms of something like chalking, it's meant to be fun and bright, and we sometimes have kids join in. And for that reason, I ask people not to make those comparisons on the floor. Just keep them in your heart, and if you're speaking to people in outreach and they make those comparisons for yourself, you're more than welcome to agree. But apart from that, it's pretty much a free-for-all. We like writing down documentaries and things for people as well, so they hopefully get that in their head and maybe watch it.
The event took place in the late evening, which I guess added to its covertness, but this meant that not many members of the public wanted to stand around and have a chat with us. However, from the few that did, there seemed to be a good reception.
Go vegan!
Woo!
It's
colourful, it's cheerful.
Yeah, I guess like you read it and like you think it through yourself, like that, like it's like the information, like no one like pressures you.
Yeah. Despite the good reactions, I still thought that others might still just see it as graffiti and question the legality of it.
How does the council feel about this?
So once they washed it off, but they don't actually have a legal right to do so. We have a guy on our team, he's been vegan about 40 years and he's amazing, so we have a legal team through him. So everything we do, every action that I want to do, be it Chalktivism or be it through direct action, which is another thing we run, everything we do, we run past him. So this is all completely legal, it's not classed as graffiti, and it's not dangerous because it's not on a highway. If we were doing it on roads, it could be seen as like tampering with lines and that and causing obstruction. Yeah, but here it's perfectly legal.
By coincidence, the police actually did show up, only to pass through, but it did reiterate just how legal this was, despite at first feeling like we should all run for the bushes. It was interesting to see just how much thought and organisation had actually gone into these events. At first glance, I thought they were just impromptu, but it really shows the passion of this little community they've built, using Chalktivism as a downtime to socialise and recharge, yet still spread their message.
Because I understand that you do other types of activism as well.
I do, yes.
And what sort of like made you choose to use this one as well as the other ones? Do you feel that this one sort of like touched people in a certain way that the other ones couldn't have?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's many different forms of activism. Not just with like plant-based eating, plant-powered living, that sort of thing, but with all sorts. Like, it suits different people's personalities. People don't feel comfortable doing a certain thing. It's not, they can still be included, and they can still
it's
feel
not as like it's even, this can gear towards the public in a different way, but also geared towards the activists in a certain way. So this will appeal to other people that they might not want to do another one, another type of activism, but this one they're much more. That's it. I didn't think about it like that.
Social anxiety and things like that I've met before. Obviously they wouldn't feel comfortable like large groups of people, or they might not be the best conversationalists. Obviously when you think of like speaking to people or having a potentially lengthy conversation, that's not everyone's cup of tea, everyone's deal. So, but we just thought of like before when we've done it and like how it's been up for like over a week and none of it's gone away, none of it's been washed off. And you think of the hundreds of people that use like this park area every day to commute to work, whether they're walking or in the evening time, things like that. And it's more about thinking about your reach, amount of like we often talk about enacting a lot of seeds planted. So it's not in terms of like I'm going to tell you to do something on the spot and you're going to believe everything I say, because I would never do that with someone who was speaking to me in that way. And it does take something for the individual to look into these things, but it's just multiple things that can build up for somebody and recall on in the future.
Getting involved myself, I could really feel the difference between this and the other forms of activism they do, which have so much more of a dark and chilling vibe. Whereas this was much more of a vibrant and fun way to still deliver such a powerful message to the public. I was surprised to see just how wrong my first assumptions on Chalktivism were, and to learn the greater depths of the importance of it. Not only is it a way for them to plant seeds in society, But it also creates a nice space to socialise and get some respite from the other protests that they do, as well as extending a safe bridge for others wanting to get into the world of activism but aren't ready for the heavier stuff. After meeting this group, I'd say Chalktivism is just as relevant as any other form of activism, and according to them, those other forms and their messages are made stronger because of it.